Hello there and welcome back again to next video. So today we will be covering exception handling in Python. So what is the exception handling in a Python? First of all, we need to understand what are the exceptions in a Python. Okay. So exception is nothing but any runtime error we are getting while executing our Python program. Okay. So basically runtime errors are exceptions in a Python. And let's understand this with some of the example first. Okay. And then we will see what are the built-in exceptions in a Python and how we can handle them. So let's say I'm going to create one list, let's say list of values. Okay. And I'm just putting some random numbers here, 10, 20, okay, 30 I'm putting into a quote. So I'm putting it as a string, and then we have a 40. Okay, so we have a list, small list, and I want to find out what is the total in total of these numbers in a list. Okay, so let's say I'm defining one more variable, list total equals to 0. Okay, so let's apply a for loop here. So for value in list of values. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my earlier total, which is 0, and I'm adding whatever value I'm getting from the list. Okay, and I want to print list total. Okay, pretty simple. So after this for loop, what I'm going to do, I'm going to print one more line. Let's say give it a message after error, this line executed. Okay, so let's run this program first and see how the execution happens here in a Python. So as you can see, first I get a 10. Okay, then I get 30. So 10 plus 20 is 30. And when I reach to this 30, right, I get some error which says traceback. This is my file, line number 5. Okay, so here while adding these 30 to my earlier list of total, I'm getting error. Okay, and what is the error? This is a type error. Okay, so unsupported operand type for plus equal to int and string. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make addition of integer and string, which is not allowed. So that's why I'm getting a type error. And if you notice, my program terminates unexpectedly, which means after this print statement, or after this a print statement not executed, my this print statement after a for loop, this has also not executed. Okay, so this is dangerous because your program gets terminated where the error occurred, right? And you don't want this behavior, right? So that's why we handle exceptions in a Python. So just I'm putting a note here that this line never gets executed. Okay, I hope you understand what are the exceptions in a Python. So these are the runtime errors because we were not expecting these, but we have a different type of value here in list, right? And this can be used by any user, right? So we don't have any validations here, and this unexpected error occur at a runtime, and we want to handle these kind of errors, right, in our program so that our code executes properly. Okay, so this type error, as it is clearly mentioned, right, int and strings additions are not allowed. So there are so many built-in exceptions in a Python. So these are the built-in exceptions in Python that we want to learn first, and then we will see how we can handle the exceptions. Okay, so let's start that. Before that, what I can do is I'm just commenting this code. All right, and I'll show you one small example how we can execute this line. Okay, even we got error, how we can handle exceptions. Okay, so what I can do, I'm just copying pasting this code again. Okay, let's uncomment this. So this time what I'll do is this for loop I'll try to handle with a try keyword. Okay, I'll explain you try in a little bit. Okay, so I want Python to try this code, okay, try to execute this code, okay, and what I'm saying, I am expecting with the except keyword, okay, something, let's say, I'm expecting type error, okay, adds E, and what I can do is I can print type error occurred, okay, and whatever this trace you see, I want to print it out, okay. So let's see if this line gets executed even if I have the error or not, okay. So now let's run the program, and as you can see, I got a 10, 30, then I get this error, right, from the except block, right, and I also printed this, what was the error, right, so it was the error with the int and the str, and you can see this line gets executed. So my program never terminated, right, it tried to execute the next lines even after the except, right. So this is how we handle exceptions with the try and except keywords, okay. I hope you understand. This is a pretty simple example. What I'm saying, Python try this code, okay, and I'm expecting a type error if any. If there is a type error, you print this message and continue the code execution after that, okay. This is pretty simple. So I'm commenting this line again, and let's move on to a built-in exceptions in Python, okay, just so that you get a clearer idea what are the built-in exceptions in Python that we can handle. So let's start with first syntax error, okay. So syntax error is any syntax error. Let's say try to create any syntax error. So I'll say x equals to 5, okay, and I'm just making some comment here that triple equal, right, we don't have something like triple equal in Python, right, so is a invalid in Python. So this is just a one example, right, where I try to compare 5 with x with a triple equal. So this could be a syntax error. So as you can see, I'm not getting any compiler error here, right? But let's see what happens when I execute the program. You see syntax error, invalid syntax, right? It tried to compare with equal to on a line 1, right? So I'm getting a syntax error. So if you make any syntax error, it will throw you a syntax error exception. Okay, very simple. Now let's see another example of a type. So what I'll just go with the same example. What if I try to add 5 with string with a number, okay. So just making a note here, can't add string and integer, okay. So let's run it. All right, okay. What happened here, okay, after invalid the syntax, this is some garbage coming in from where, okay, I don't know, but I'll try to print the result instead of this. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to comment this line before I execute before I show you the next error, right? So now okay, I'm getting, okay, this is because I have used a result somewhere else. So let's change it back to something else. Okay, but now where this is coming, I don't know. I'll try to debug this first. All right, so I have debugged this error. So what was happening, this was getting printed from another class. And why this has happened, when I change this result, something I imported unexpectedly. So here you can see this line actually from hello world, which was my another module. I imported results, okay, and that's why it was printing all the results before this error. I'm just going to remove it. This was happened with the auto correction thing. So I'm rerunning the program now, and now you can see I see the error, type error, right, where can only concatenate string not int to string. Okay, so this is how we can create a type error. Okay, if you try to concatenate string with the integer. Okay, so let's move on to next error, which is a value error. So how we can generate a value error? So let's say I want to typecast string to integer. Okay, let's say this is the example. Okay, so here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to convert ABC to integer, okay, which is not possible. In that case, I'll get a value error. Okay, so I'm just commenting this out again and rerunning the program. So as you can see, value error, invalid literal for integer with the best end. Okay, so this is how you get a value error. Now let's understand what is the index error. So let's say I have a list 1, 2, 3. Okay, and if I try to print list with index which is not there, right? So I have only 3 elements, but I want to print a list of 5, right? So I'm just going to comment the above line and run this. Okay, so as you can see, I get an index error, list index out of range. Okay, so I have only 0, 1, 2 indexes, but I try to print a 5. Okay, so in that case you get a index out of range error. Okay, so let's comment this out as well. Now see what is a key error in a Python. Okay, so let's say I have a data, and in data let's say name equals to, maybe I'll write it down as a Prasad. Okay, and what if I try to print a data with key which is not here, right? So I have key and name only, but I'm trying to print as a age. Okay, and let's see what happens here. So you see key error age. So age is, this key is not here, right? So you get a key error. So just let me comment this as well. Age key not found. So what is a name error now? Okay, this is again a very simple example. Let's say I want to print a variable which is not there, right? And try to print it out. You see name error. Name A is not defined. Okay, so whenever you are trying to use a variable which is not defined, you will get a name error. So variable A is not defined. So let's comment out this as well. Now what is the attribute error? Okay, so attribute, this we have not covered yet. Okay, I mean, we have an attribute for the class, we have a method for the class, and if we try to use that, okay, which is not existed in your class, then you will get an attribute error. Let's give me a small example. If I try to, let's say I have a nub equals to 10, okay, and I try to append which I cannot do, right? Append I can use with the list, not with the normal number, right? Then I get this error, attribute error, because append attribute is not there, right? So int object has no attribute append. So let's say int object have no append, okay, and accessing an attribute or method, okay. Let's remember it can come with the method as well, method that doesn't exist, okay. This is how you can get an attribute error as well. So let's comment this out. Now let's see IO error. IO error we have already seen our last lecture when we are trying to open a file which does not exist. So let's see another example. So with open, if I try to say no exists .txt, okay, I don't have this file on my machine. If I try to open in a read mode, okay, adds f content equals to f.read. Okay, so you might not knowing about this with keyword, right? So with will be useful when it will try to automatically close the object of a file which we are trying to open, right? So earlier what we have to do, we have to close the file object manually, right? So this is where with come into handy. So let's run this program, and as you can see, file not found error, right? No such file or directory. So here this error, this we have already seen. So this is how we can get a IO error. Now let's say if we try to divide number by 0, okay, what will happen? So we get a 0 division by error, okay, which is not possible in a math. So this is pretty simple. Actually, I'm not going to make a comment about it. If you try to divide a number by 0, you will get a 0 division error. Then we have memory error as well. We can get a memory error. So let's say if I try to create a huge list, huge underscore list with a number, sorry, with the content 1, and I want the size 10 raised to 10. Okay, so this is a very huge list I'm trying to create, and if I run, okay, I have to make it more huge, okay, just to get a memory error. All right, okay. So currently I'm not getting error, but if you have to try to create something more, okay, so instead what I'll do is I'll do like this power function, and you can see a memory error, okay. So when you don't have a memory to operate this operation, you get a memory error. Okay. Then we have an import error, okay. So if I try to import something which is not there, right, import something, and as you can see already compiler started giving error that no module or no such module, right. If I try to run this program, I get module not found error, okay. So import something, this is like you get a error. Oh, pretty simple. So now you know what kind of built-in error Python can give us, right? So all 11, I think this basic mostly you will see in your daily use, and how to handle these exceptions you can see now, okay. So I already told you like this example how we can handle with try and except, but let's just deep dive into it and see all the functions Python provides to handle these kind of exceptions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define one function let's say divide numbers, okay, a comma b, and I'm going to open that function. So I'm going to try my code, okay, with try block, okay, and I'm going to check if a is less than 0 or b is less than 0, okay. And if this is a condition, I mean, if I have a negative number, what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise a custom exception, okay. So we can do a custom exception. So negative number exception, we don't have a built-in negative exceptions in our Python, right, in this list. But we can create a custom exception and we can raise it, okay. So how we can raise it? Just use a keyword raise, okay. And whatever custom exception you want to give, you can give it like negative number error, okay. So here what I'm going to pass is, I'm going to pass a if a is less than 0, okay, else d. So whichever negative number we are getting here, right, I'm just going to pass to the negative number error. As you can see here, I'm getting error, but we'll try to resolve it in a bit, okay. So this is how I can throw actually a custom exception, okay. So after that, if let's say I don't have any negative number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a result a divided by b, okay, simple. Now what are the possibilities that I can get in the result, right? So what I'm expecting, I can expect 0 division error, right? So b can be 0, and if we try to do that operation, we are expecting 0 division error. So I'm just going to print cannot divide by 0, okay. And I'm going to print that message, this trace, this kind of trace back, right, here with this object e, okay. So since I raised this exception, right, I need to handle, I can accept this as well, right, my custom exception as well. So I'm just going to copy paste this negative number error as e, okay, and I'm going to print simply a e, okay. Now we have a else block in along with the try, right. So the else block is very handy when you want to make sure that your code executes if there are no error, right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print a message executes only if no exception occurs, and hence result is, I'm just going to print the result, this result, okay. This result I'm going to print here, whatever result we are getting if we have no error. So else is, so let's say we don't have error here, okay, we got the results from our operation, so we can print that into else. So else will execute only when there are no errors, okay. So this is how we can merge else block with the try, except and else. And last we have a finally block. So finally block actually useful when it executes every time, it always executes no matter you have an error or not, okay. So this is very handy when you want to close a database connection, file object, something like that, okay. So let's print it out, this always executes. All right, so let's test this function, okay. I'm still having this error because just with the raise keyword we don't create any kind of custom exceptions. So in order to create that custom exceptions, what you need to do is you need to create a class. Okay, so class we have not handled, but I'm just giving you some example so that we can we are going to cover a class in our next series, okay, in advanced concepts. But let's give it a try, like how we can create a class. So class we can create with the class keyword and the name of the class. Okay, then we have exception class, okay, inside this in order to create a custom exception. And I'm going to define one more function. Let's say init self and value. Okay, self also we have not covered yet. So value I'm just passing from here, negative numbers here, right? So here I'm just passing the value, and I want to assign this value self value equals to the value which is coming from here. Okay, and I'm going to call a super function, okay, of this exception class, where I'm going to print the actual message which I want to show, right? So I'm just going with this f string, and let's say negative number not allowed. So which number is not allowed? I want to print that number as a expression. Okay, this value I want to print. All right, so now you can see the error has disappeared, right? So just to create a custom exception, after creating a custom exception class, this error disappeared. All right, okay, so now we want to test this function and how we can handle the exceptions. Okay, so let's give it some cases. So let's say I'm just going to print something, case 1. So let's start with the valid case, and I'm just going to call this function from here. Let's say divide numbers. I want to divide 10 by 2 and run it. Okay, so as you can see, it executes only if no exception occur, hence the result is 5, right? So my else block executed because I don't have any error with this valid case. And you can see this always executes, right? So finally block always executes no matter I have an error or not, right? So this was a valid case. Now let's check with something else. Case 2. Let's start with divide by 0. And here what I can give, instead of 2 I can give a 0 and rerun. So in case 2, you see message cannot divide by 0, division by 0, right? Okay, I'm just going to remove this E here, rerun. So cannot divide by 0, right? So this time, since my I'm trying to execute this error has been caught and this printed message here, right? So this time else block has not executed, right? But the finally block executed. We can see divide error and the finally block. So else block has not executed in this case. Now let's try one more example. Negative input. And here what I'm going to do is A I'll give -5, B I'll give 2. Okay, just run it. And you can see negative numbers not allowed. And what is the negative number? -5. And finally block always executed. So what happened here? Okay, so it checked if A is less than 0, yes, or B is less. So here we are raising a negative number exception and I'm passing A value because A is less than 0. Okay, so now it will go here, negative number. Okay, try to print this message. Okay, and it will call this init function where negative number is not allowed. This is already then execute it. Okay, so this is how you can raise a custom exceptions as well. So what happens, I have handled only the zero division error and negative number error. So what if I have not handled something in a function itself, right? Then what will happen? So it will throw that error to the function call. Okay, let's see that example as well. So case 4. Okay, let's say exception has not handled inside function. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to see, errors which are not caught in divide numbers. Okay, so what will happen to those errors? Okay, so I can actually use a try here. Okay, when I'm trying to call this function. Okay, divide number, and let's try to create a error which is not there. Let's say temp and 2. Okay, I want to divide a temp string with a number 2. Okay, which is, this compiler is already giving me some error, right? Okay, except or finally okay, just forget about it. So what I'm trying to accept, some kind of exception, I don't know. Okay, so exception is a superclass and I'm trying to print E here. Okay, so basically this condition, this type error, we have not handled in our function, right? So function, whenever function gets this error, it will throw that error back to the function call. Okay, here, and here I am handling that exception. Okay, so which are you are not handling into the function itself, you can handle at the call level as well. Okay, so let's try to run it, and you can see this always executes. So this finally black executed from our function. Okay, but whatever error we have got, right, this error handle with this except block. Okay, so this is not supported between the string and the integer. Okay, so this comparison actually tries to do from here. So from here only I'm getting the error. Okay, not from the result. So yeah, this is how you can handle the exception, and you can continue the code even if you have error in a Python program. Okay, so pretty simple. We have covered try, we have covered except, then else block, finally block, and a raise. Okay, so that's all about exception handling in the Python. Okay, very simple, but just make sure you are handling all kind of error which you are expecting in a Python. Okay, so yeah, that's it actually. This is the end of our series, Introduction to Python, and next we are going to cover advanced concept in a Python, where we will be covering OOPs, then database connections, and how we can use other built-in libraries like Excel, CSV, all that stuff. Okay, so stay tuned and bye bye.